Hello and welcome back to Mental Health Matters. My name is Andrew Ditzel and this is episode 23. Today's episode we have on Johnny Castagnozzi. He's going to share his story about committing to a Division I baseball school in North Carolina, playing there, his experiences with mental health, how he copes, and what he does to continue forward to manage his mental health. We'll be right back after this. Alrighty, so I just gave Johnny a brief introduction here and excited to have him on. Johnny, thank you very much for coming on today.
Yep.
Johnny, tell us a little bit about yourself, interests, hobbies, passions, things you're into.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thanks for having me, Andrew. I'm happy about doing this. Excited about sharing my experience with this line of stuff in sports and just talking about how athletes kind of deal with this stuff in general and from what my experience. But from Long Island, New York, I graduated Massapequa High School 2020. I went to UNC Chapel Hill when I was 20. Yeah, that was this like right after COVID in 2020. So my first year was kind of not in person, but in person ish. But I was there for 4 years. I played baseball, and now I'm actually I own a travel organization, and I'm coaching kids and giving back in my knowledge to those kids in the baseball world. So, but I'm really excited about doing this. So thanks.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for coming on. I think just a little side note, going to college as a freshman during COVID, that was probably a whole experience in itself.
Yeah, for sure. I remember my first class like was in person, and then we were in person for like a week or so, and then they cut it out, and then all the students left, so we were just kind of by ourselves, and like the athletes were just there by ourselves, and like we were still going to class, but there was like nobody in class.
Yeah.
It's like might as well not even be there. And then we ended up doing all online, but yeah, it was a unique experience for sure. Um, and then we started playing that season, and there was no fans allowed in the stands.
Yeah, that's got to be
So
crazy.
it was like,
You're like, I'm going to play D1 baseball and
yeah,
nobody's here to cheer me
yeah.
on.
We had cardboard cutouts. Like you could like pay for a cardboard cutout behind the
great.
dugout and stuff. So yeah, I think eventually halfway through the year the parents started coming a little bit and
Okay.
stuff like that. But it was a unique experience for sure.
All right, cool. So let's get down into it with talking about your experience building up to committing and going to UNC. So what was the initial reaction or that experience of committing to a Division I baseball team?
Yeah, so I was very fortunate. At a young age, I was getting recruited. Probably it started in the end of eighth grade year, like, hearing from schools and stuff. The rules were different then as they are now. You really can't get recruited until, I think, junior year now. So I was real young. But yeah, so I started going on visits probably in ninth grade. I had a couple offers lined up, and one of the first weeks of my 10th grade year, I think I committed to UNC. And that alone was kind of it put a lot of stress on me at a young age, because it's a big decision, right? You're not just making a decision for 4 years. They say it's a 40-year decision. But I think those moments kind of helped me mature at a young age, and help me still to this day, dealing with the pressure of getting on a phone call and talking to a coach who might ask you questions that you might not necessarily know the answer to, and you have to kind of figure out how to, make yourself be presentable through a phone call. But I was fortunate about that, and a lot of people don't get to deal with that, and like I said, I think it has helped me still to this day. But yeah, so 10th grade committed UNC, and then I was just riding that out through high school.
Yeah. So I think what's really powerful is you're saying eighth grade you started getting recruited.
Yeah.
Like eighth grade, you're 14 years
Yeah,
old.
just about.
And talking about pressure and being able to deal with that, right? You're a 13-year-old going to play Division I
Yeah.
baseball with adults pretty much,
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
completely different world. So I think that's a really good point you make with dealing with pressure at a younger age and then being able to deal with that and that helping you out moving forward.
Yeah, yeah. I think, like I said, I was very fortunate to have that because people were not getting recruited, and sometimes players had to wait till they were seniors in high school, and there was a lot more pressure then. But I was so young, I didn't know everything that I needed to know, so I did wait until it became too much, and I had to make a decision. When I'm in eighth grade, you don't know what you want when you're 20 years old.
Yeah.
So I was trying to, rely on my parents and the resources I had to help me make those decisions. And, like I said, I'm very grateful that I had those experiences.
Yeah, that's got to be a big one, relying on family, friends to, especially at a young age with such a high pressure stakes there. So that's good.
Yeah.
I talked about that last episode a little bit. Completely different situation, but the importance of relying on people for difficult times.
Yeah.
That's definitely really important.
Yeah, I mean, it's very glamorous, right? You're hearing from this school and this school and this school, and everyone, you can go on TV and watch them and see them playing, in football in front of hundreds of thousands of people. And like I said, I don't know, like, that looks great and all, it's a shiny object, but is that really what's going to help me in my life? And, my parents been with me through everything in my life, obviously through baseball and stuff, but outside of that as well. And, they were a huge resource at the time because they saw things that I didn't, and they guided me in a direction that they thought would be beneficial to me. So I'm very thankful for that. And my extended family as well, my aunt, my uncle, really have been supportive of me throughout my career. So
That's awesome. That's great to have. All right, so to get a little bit more about you and talking mental health on the podcast today. So what is the mental process in playing baseball at such a high level, going from freshman year to senior year? And I think about this because I actually had another guest on who's a Division I soccer player, and he said the difference from when I started there to when I finished, it was like I was a kid into a man.
Yep.
And I think there's a big mental process in going through that. So what was that like for you?
yeah, I think so senior year of high school was COVID, so that was a weird time for everybody, right? But I remember we were in the regional in Lubbock, Texas. This is like the end of the season, we're in the playoffs, and I remember just being so drained, and I'm like, I've never felt this tired in my life, and we're about to play in the biggest game of the season. And I just remember I was in a store with my dad and my mom, like a Cowboys store, getting
Yeah.
and I'm just like, I just felt so tired about everything, and I started to think about it. It's like, mentally, I was not prepared for this. Like, it's so many games compared to what we played here in New York, and that year I don't think I managed my mental state off the field as well, because I was just always constantly thinking about what can I do better, what did I do in this game, like what happened in this at bat, why didn't I get a hit here, and as I started to get older, I started to realize, like, okay, what really is important is having something outside the field that you can look forward to doing. Not just thinking about, your swing and what pitch you swung at and what happened on this play and going back and watching the video. Like, in class, I remember just sitting there and watching my swing over. I'm like, man, if I can do that differently.
Yeah.
It's just like you have to separate the two, right? You're a baseball player at UNC. You're not Johnny Castagnozzi, the baseball player. You're just Johnny Castagnozzi who plays baseball at UNC.
I like that. That's a good way to frame that.
Yeah, and I think if my whole life my identity was Johnny's a baseball player, and so you really have to try to separate the two, I think. And that's kind of what I've learned as I got older through school.
Okay. So do you feel like, was there a time when you realized, or like an age, whether it was sophomore year, junior year, that you felt that change? Or did you feel like it was just gradual all the way through?
It was gradual, but I think a big moment was when I had a blood clot my junior year, and I missed a couple weeks of the season. I was out for 3 months, and I was in the hospital for a week, and I was like, wow, like, this just came out of nowhere, and I was in shock, right? I was like, this could change my career, yada, all that stuff, but not like in those moments I was thinking, okay, this is like what's important right now. Baseball's not that important. And then that made me mentally tough going into my junior year and my senior year, but it made me realize, like, this is not everything in my life. I can still separate the two, and be really focused on my craft and doing things the right way and preparing. And because like any athlete at a high level, you need to be prepared in order to have success. If you're not prepared, you're not going to do well. So like I've been saying, you just really have to try to find a way to separate, what happens on the field, because you're there for such a long time throughout the day, and when you leave, winding down a little bit. And whether for me, I remember my sophomore year, the thing that I was playing really well. I would go home when I was watching like all the Marvel movies, and I was like looking forward to that,
Yep.
And now looking at it, it's like that was one of my best times of my career because I was playing so well, but I wasn't thinking about baseball when I wasn't there. So to answer that question, it was gradual, but I think when I had that injury, that really flipped a switch in my head.
That's great.
Yeah.
And I think something that's crucial for what you're saying is that separation. Like, yes, you are a baseball player, but you're not a baseball player 24/7.
Yeah.
You're also still a person.
Yep.
I can definitely relate in my experience with when I was a teacher and how when I was teaching, I was on. You know what I mean? You're in there, you're helping kids, you're on all the time. But having to separate when I leave school, that I'm not a teacher when I'm not at school.
Yeah.
And having that good balance of different parts of our lives and how important that is for our mental health. And I love that you were going home watching Marvel movies and doing something you enjoy, to kind of like give you a break from the high pressure of playing Division I baseball.
Yeah, you're always under you're always under the spotlight. And in North Carolina there's no professional baseball team there, so UNC is the professional baseball. So like people
I never
are
thought
up here,
about that. That is a good thought.
People up here are Mets, Yankees fans, and they're diehard. People are diehard UNC fans. Down there,
Wow, I have never thought about that before.
They have there's like a forum post you can go on and write your own comments about the game on there as the game's going on. So if sometimes you go on there and look at it, if you made an error or something like that, you're getting shredded on that thing. So people are always watching it, Yeah, you got to learn to separate the two and eliminate the outside noise in terms of people writing bad things about you online, because people are real passionate about it. If you're not doing things the right way in the field, they're gonna let you know.
Yeah,
for sure. So.
Well, I think about even here in New York, like you play for the Yankees, and it's like you're getting ripped.
You're getting Anthony Volpe makes an error at shortstop. Everyone's like, "Oh, we got to trade him." Come on, it's one play.
Yeah. But that's such an interesting concept that down in North Carolina, UNC Chapel Hill, that baseball team, that's their New York Yankees.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and it's the triangle. So you got Duke, you got NC State, Wake Forest, East Carolina. Those are all really, really good baseball schools, and there's so much competition there that they're always competing for the top spot. And UNC it's the state school, right? It's like the University of North Carolina. So those fans are like, we're the best. We're the best. We're always going to be the best. So if you don't hold those standards of being the best, like I said, they're going to let you know.
Yeah.
So,
there's got to be a little pressure in that too.
Yeah, there is. I mean, for me, it was like I didn't know. Like going down there, I knew UNC and Duke was a big rival. NC State and UNC in baseball was like the biggest rival. And I didn't know that, but the people that are from North Carolina, that's the biggest game of the year for them, and being from New York, I didn't know that, and it wasn't as meaningful for me until I got older in school. My freshman year, I was like, oh, it's just another game. But, the fans and the players from North Carolina were saying this is like huge for everyone around here, So.
You probably start to develop that, right? Freshman year, you're kind of just like, all right, I'm just playing baseball. I'm continuing to do what I always did, and then I feel like you're there for a couple of years. You start to develop that pride, and
you're built into it, But pride is, like you just said, pride. That's a huge thing. You can look in the stands. There's a red side and there's a light blue side. Because there's so much diversity. But all good experiences and all have shaped me to be the person I am today. So
that's great.
Yeah.
So we talked a little bit about separating from baseball and just being a person as well. Just talking about managing your mental health in general at North Carolina. How do you feel like you did that?
Yeah. Like I was saying, I think the biggest thing is going home and looking forward to doing something opposed to just going home and watching film or whatever it may be. But for me, it was having good friends. Like my teammates were such a valuable resource to me to go talk to about if I had a bad game or if they had a bad game, vice versa. Hanging out with the guys, being around them and soaking up, like, being in the moment wherever you're at, was huge. And I feel like in terms of baseball, when players go into the minor leagues, they don't have that team camaraderie, right? They lose that because everyone's focused on themselves and making it to the big leagues. In college, it's a team sport. I didn't know a lot of those guys going in there. And you have to be friends with them, right? You're with them all day. You're in the locker room with them. You go home, you live with them. So I was lucky to have people that I really liked and I really enjoyed being around. So just being in the moment outside the field with those guys was what helped me separate, being on the field and being at home. And at times it's hard, right? You don't want to, if you had a bad game, you don't want to go out and be social and hang out downstairs with your friends, or you just want to go home in your room and look at the film. But you really have to fight that urge to do that, because the next day's coming and you're going to get up and you have to go to the field again. And that's the beauty of baseball. It's every day you have a new opportunity.
Yeah.
So, whatever happened in that game, you have to put aside and you have to move on from it. I think one thing that I did that was helped me as I got older, my junior year, I started to write a journal after every game, and I wanted to leave, and I did it in the locker room, after we had the team meeting and everything, because I wanted to leave what happened on the field that day on the field. And I wanted to go home, and I wanted, if my parents were in town, I'd want to spend time with them, or like I just said, be with your friends. So when I stopped writing that journal, like after that game was over. On to the next day, So that helped me a lot.
I think that's great, having a journal.
Yeah.
I mean, and you're using the journal for baseball purposes and kind of separating yourself and getting to the next day. But I think journaling just in general for mental health is great for people.
Yeah.
Just to get your thoughts down and kind of get the things that you have on your mind out somewhere.
Yeah.
That's good.
I think looking back, when I was in high school and I was getting the recruitment, at schools, I would write down everything that I was thinking during the phone call while I was on the phone call with them. And I didn't really think about it as much because I was just trying to get down what they were saying, and it did help me to debrief what I was just talking about on the phone with the coach. And I didn't go back to journaling until I was in college, like my junior year. And I think still to this day, I think it's a valuable resource to have in anything that I do, whether that's meeting with, a player or just whatever I'm thinking mentally on my own. It's good to just write it down and just have it on the paper and just get it out of your head,
Yeah.
and move on from it. So.
Yep, that is great. Almost like a little form of therapy. But I don't want to get away from the fact that you did mention your friends as well at college, and I think that is huge. And not only having good friends, but having a good community to be around and to be involved with. Like, I feel like, and I didn't experience playing baseball at North Carolina, but I feel like just those experiences of maybe you're going out to eat with them or just hanging out, those small moments and those times, those are some of the times you probably never forget.
Yeah, I agree. I saw a video about, what makes a successful team. Because at that level, right, a lot of teams are very good and they're very talented. And what separates the teams that are champions versus the teams that are just good? And I think that is deeply caring about the guy next to you and your teammates. And you build that through going out with them and going out to dinner and hanging out and doing those things outside the field. Because that's where you really get to know somebody. You only get to know someone so much on the baseball field and in the locker room. When you're outside of that, like, get to know him. Like, ask him some questions about himself and just start to build that connection. And something that we did when we were seniors is we wanted to bring those freshmen and make them feel comfortable. And invite them over. Let's go get something to eat. Let's watch this. Let's do something. Just anything.
Yeah.
To really gel the team together, and that's part of being successful as a team in a team sport, which obviously baseball is. So
yeah, that's great.
But yeah, it was. I was fortunate to have a great group of guys around me at school.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think it's a really interesting fact too about saying that some guys went to the minor leagues, right? And whoever goes different ways, like when you go to the minors, you go to the majors, it's completely different, and they don't really have that same team chemistry as when you're playing college baseball.
Yeah.
I think that that's almost a good thing to think about for, success in teams in general, right? Like building that team community and that bond, that helps build success.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's teams in everything, in business and
Yeah.
sports, and your family's a team. Yeah, you have to build those bonds to be successful. I truly do think that. And what I've heard from my friends who are in the minor leagues and playing is, yes, it's a business, right? You're getting paid to be there, but there's none of that. Like, there's none of like relying on your teammates for things. And at any given moment, you could be shipped off to another place, and then you're with a whole new group of people. So it's hard to build that connection like you do in college, especially if you're there for 4 years with some of those guys. And I was just fortunate enough that. And honestly, it was about the player. Like, the players built that. The coaches influence things in a way, but the players are the ones who really build the team chemistry and push the team to be better. Because it's hard. If you're not playing, you want to be upset that you're not playing. You want to be angry at somebody. You want to take it out on someone. But what made us really good my senior year is the guys that weren't playing as much, they like push the guys on the field to be better because we had good attitudes and they had good mindsets and stuff like that, and when someone was getting in the game that hasn't been in the game in a while, it was always like, let's go, man, let's do it. It was building each other up instead of knocking each other down or saying, oh, this guy went 0 for 3, I should be in the game the next day. And that's what I think built the bond that we had as teammates very strong.
I love that. You get me pumped up over here. Because it's hard to come by, because it's very easy to be like, that guy struck out, that guy made an error, like, I should be in there, he shouldn't. But the fact that everybody is bought in and everybody has each other's backs is a great thing.
I think about even in high school, it was the same way. Like, our teams were really good, but we did care about each other, and that's why we were winners, and we went to the state championship and stuff. The two best teams I were on in college was my sophomore year and my senior year, and I think those two teams were the closest two teams we had. Freshman and junior year, I didn't feel that as much, but the senior year team, those guys, if we were all together in a room right now, we can be talking for hours and hours, just because it's just that bond we created. I don't know if that would be the case if we were, with my freshman year team or my junior year team, but and that's why I think we made it to Omaha. We went to the championship, and we won all these games. It was because of how we felt about each other, So, and mentally, that frees you up. When you're on the field and you know that the guy that's watching you is pulling for you and really is pulling for you, not just kind of faking it. You know it's like, okay, I want to do this. Like, I want to go out and compete. And like I said, it frees you up mentally to know that and have those guys behind you.
Yeah, that's great for the mental. And I think it's something else I'm thinking about is you played baseball, high school baseball at Massapequa. Great talent. You played college baseball at North Carolina. Great talent. And there's no doubt that the talent is going to be there for both teams, But the talent is always there. But you're saying those teams that were the best weren't about the talent, but they were about the chemistry and the relationships that you had with each other.
Yeah, 100%.
That takes you far.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you don't have talent on a team, it's hard to win, obviously. But at that level, everybody has talent, right? So what differentiates the teams? And I think, personally, I really think it's like the team chemistry and the culture that we build as players, right? The coaches can set the standard and set the culture, but the players have to abide by it and follow it. And I think that if the players get together and try to do it all as a collective group, everyone's pulling in the same direction, that's when success happens. And like I just said, mentally you're free on the field. You're not stressing about who's behind you and who's going to come into the game next. You have one common goal, and that's to win.
That's it. I love that. So let's get a little bit more back into some mental health stuff in just college sports in general. So you played at a very high level, but for any college athlete, whether it is D1, D2, D3, looking back on your experience, how would you advise somebody, whether maybe they're about to commit to play college sports or they're in the midst of maybe their sophomore, junior, What kind of advice would you give them to manage their mental health the best they can?
Yeah, like I think going in there and just understanding that it's going to be difficult and you're going to be challenged in ways that you didn't necessarily think you might be. Just understanding that before you go into school, right? And then like I was saying, separating, okay, and this can be broken down in a couple different things. Separating, let's say how the coach feels about you. Like separate how you think he feels about you on the field versus off the field, and also separate like they talk to you all day, and sometimes coaches aren't perfect. So don't take something that he or she says too personally. Like
Hmm.
you know, understand that they're competing and it's high stress and stuff like that. Um, so if they say something negative to you, like don't let it affect you too much.
Hmm.
So there's that, and then separating your performance, um, especially in baseball, it's a tough game to succeed in every game, right? You're gonna
Hmm.
have games where it's really bad, and you have games where it's really good. So don't ride the roller coaster of emotions, and then separate yourself as an athlete and as a student. Like you're in college, you're around people your age. Like be social, go out and meet people on campus and stuff like that, and then enjoy being around people. And when you're on the field, enjoy being with those guys. Like just be where your feet are. Would be the biggest advice I would give. And um, you know, you only have a certain amount of time in school. Like 4 years went by really quick, and I wish that I was a little bit better, like separating these types of things when I was there. And I didn't
Hmm.
really learn it until honestly, like the end of my junior year, my last year.
Hmm.
And I wish I knew that a little bit sooner.
Yeah, well, sometimes it takes going through it to really understand that.
Yeah,
That's why I think people listening, that's going to be great for them to hear. Get
yeah,
involved, live in the moment, be present with what you're going through, and learn to manage that the sports with academics, socially, and kind of
yeah,
living a full balanced life.
yeah. You can't. I mean, putting your eggs all in one basket, like in terms of sports, it's gonna come to an end one day,
Hmm.
and that makes it even harder when it does come to an end. So you really have to have that balance in everything, and that'll also teach you to have balance when you go to work or when you have a family. Prioritize the things that you need to prioritize, but also have a balance of okay, I can chill a little bit. I can take a day off, stuff like that.
Hmm.
A lot of people's mindsets is like, let's not, you need to do this, you need to do that, and yes, you do need to do that. I 100% agree, but you also need to have some sympathy for yourself at times. So
Hmm. That's a great point.
yeah,
I love that. And something else that you talk about or something you mentioned is roller coaster of emotions. Don't ride the roller coaster of emotions.
yeah,
I feel like in my own personal experience, sometimes I ride the roller coaster of my emotions.
hmm,
And something that always helps me is my faith. And that keeps me grounded in those ups and downs, whatever I'm going through. Um, was there anything that helped to keep you grounded? I always end each episode with my faith.
yeah. Um, so going to school, I early on I got told that there was Bible studies on Sundays, and one of those players, his name's Nick Pry, phenomenal guy. He ran them at times, and then there was this guy Mike X who ran them with Nick, um, and I didn't I never really went to Bible studies. Like I went to church occasionally, and when I got to school, I was like, this is something that I think could help me separate baseball in my life. So just being at those Bible studies with those guys and just being open about our feelings and how we can have faith in the Lord and that we're He's pushing us to do things the right way and just trusting in His plan for us. Um, was huge because you beat yourself up so much, but at the end of the day, you got to know that He loves you and He's there for you, right? You can go to Him with anything. Fortunately, that guy Mike X just passed away a couple
Ah,
weeks ago, but he was such a light for so many people at UNC, and he ran the Athletes in Action. I think it's called AIA for like all the student athletes. But he would always come on Sundays and do Bible study with us before games, and that eases your mind going into a game. Sometimes Sundays are the biggest game in the series because it's 1-1. You need to win
right,
the
the
series.
grudge match.
Yeah, so him being there and a credit to Nick as well for leading those Bible studies. I know a lot of players did rely on them, and I know it really did help me.
Yeah. I think faith is a good thing, and you talk about almost like being hard on yourself, right? Like feeling that pressure and not performing, and understanding that God has grace, that it's okay to fall short, and that it's okay to not perform the best you can. Like baseball, you said before, it's a sport where you fail.
Yeah.
You go 1 for 3 and you have a great day, right? 1 for 3 is a great day,
Yeah.
and you're only successful 33% of the time. It's like,
Yeah.
wow.
It's tough, yeah. And then even then, like, you go 1 for 3, you're like, great, I got that hit, but what did I do with those other 2 at bats?
Right. Yeah. Well, it's so
always
easy to be critical of yourself,
Yeah.
be super hard on yourself, because at the end of the day, you probably want perfection, right?
Yeah.
It's like, how can I get 3 for 3?
Yep.
How can I, instead of hitting a single, hit a double or something like that?
Yeah.
So I think having that grace with ourselves is really important and something good. And I'm glad that you had that while you were down there.
Yeah, for sure. I'm very thankful for those guys for leading those programs on Sundays because, like I said, it eased all of us going into the game, and anyone who attended felt good after leaving the Bible studies. So.
Yeah. You never feel bad leaving, right?
No, definitely not. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, you have been an awesome guest on today.
Yeah, thank you. This is great.
Yeah, I mean, you share a lot of insight with mental health, not only with sports, but outside of sports too, just as whether it's a college athlete and something else or just a college student.
Yeah.
And I think people listening to this are going to resonate and not feel so alone with what they might be going through.
Yeah, I hope so. And I encourage people to just be open about how they feel about things and not feel like there's, you have to hold everything to yourself. And there's times in my life where I felt like I had to hold things to myself. But, there's really people out there that are relating to what you're dealing with in the moment. So just be open and enjoy life, right? We only have so much time here. So let's enjoy it.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
I think another thing, just to keep going for a sec, is you talk about leadership. And, I think what makes such a good leader, and I think what makes you a good leader, is that you're willing to be vulnerable. That not everything's perfect all the time, and you're going to fall short. And I think that is what makes a good leader, and is why you're going to be a good coach, too.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I hope so, yeah. I try to instill, discipline into our players and hold a standard like I kind of had at school. But I do want to be seen as a leader. Like, come to me, anytime you're struggling or when you're doing well, right? It's hard to have success at times because there's so much, that comes into your life when you are having success. So it's managing the failures and the success, that which really will help you in the long run. I've seen so many people that have had success and then they didn't know how to manage it and then they ended up failing because of it. So managing the failures and the success is really important. But like I always tell my players, they're young kids, but come to me with anything. Like the coaches that I bring around the program, I want to have the same mindset because at the end of the day, we are the ones they look up to on the baseball field. And let's make it more than just on the baseball field. Let's make it outside of there as well. I love that. So,
That's great.
And they're young. Look, they, sometimes they're thinking about TikTok and stuff like that. But we try to bring them along. So, but yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thanks for doing this.
Of course. Great. Yeah. Thanks again for coming on.
Yep.
Guys, thank you for tuning in to episode 23 of Mental Health Matters. We had an awesome guest here in Johnny Castagnozzi. Remember, with whatever you are going through, today we're talking college sports, college baseball, whatever you might be struggling with, whether you got anxiety, depression, it's your job, it's a relationship that you're in, know that you're not alone with what you're going through and that your mental health matters. We'll see you back here next time.